Hi guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you part one of my July wrap-up. I have 4 books to talk to you about, and it's kind of a diverse array of books. My reading habits are always random, so in this month especially. So the first book I want to talk to you about is Grasshopper Jungle by Andrew Smith. This is a YA book that I listen to on audio at work, and it follows Austin and his friends Robbie and Shan as they deal with a attack on their town by some monsters that I will not tell you what they are. But Austin and Robbie and Shan are all in 10th grade, and they are just having normal teenage problems, love and figuring out who they like and, playing around on their skateboards, whatever. And then one day they inadvertently cause a bit of destruction to their town. And then it's just a dystopian novel, and it's really crazy. This was not a usual read for me. I got this from the Sync audiobook program, which is a program for teens and to increase their summer reading. Every 2 weeks you get, no, every week you get 2 audiobooks for free. And so this was one of those. And it was okay. I actually did not think that the Shan or any of the women in the book were very well written. It seemed more like the Austin and Robbie show, and then Shan was just thrown in maybe to appeal to the female crowd. I don't really know, but I did not really approve of the portrayal of women in this story. I cannot really say that I recommend it unless you are a teenage guy who likes reading about monsters and crazy things like that. I will say that this is an LGBT novel in the fact that Austin identifies as bisexual, but and that was interesting in that regard because it's not the normal oh my goodness, the LGBT kid kills themselves or something tragic happens. And so, it's the tragedy in the book is the monsters that are in their town. It's not anything to do with Robbie or Austin. But I don't know, I didn't really think the portrayal of it was that great. It seems like they threw Shan in there for Austin to be bisexual, but then he never really spends that much time with Shan. He's always with Robbie, and I don't know. It didn't seem like that great of a portrayal. The next book I read was Wait Till Next Year by Doris Kearns Goodwin, and Doris Kearns Goodwin is a famous historian who's won the Pulitzer Prize, and I have read several of her books, and I really admire her. So I picked this up at Half Price Books last summer, and I've never gotten around to it. But this is a memoir of Doris's childhood, and she lived in Long Island, and her father especially, was really into the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team, and so it frames her childhood in reference to famous games in that era and occurrences on the baseball field. And it also talked about the Cold War and how she and her classmates learned how to hide under their desk, and it talks about the aftermath of the World War II, and it was just a really interesting read about the sort of quiet period of the 1950s, and it talked about the new wealth of America, how everybody was moving to the suburbs, just like her family, and it was a really fascinating read, and it was particularly interesting because Doris got to meet several of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and so, for example, she talked about how she went up to Jackie Robinson and got his autograph after one of the games, and the day that the Brooklyn Dodgers won their first ever World Series, Doris and her family went downtown and got to see the parade and got to party it up, and so it was a really fascinating memoir, and I highly recommend it if you are interested in baseball or learning more about the 1950s in America. The next book I read was Symphony for the City of the Dead, Dmitri Shostakovich and the Siege of Leningrad. And this is a biography of the Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich, and so it just talks about his life, and then it goes into detail about Russian history. It briefly touches on the Russian Revolution and World War I, but then the primary focus is World War II, and specifically the Siege of Leningrad, which is the largest siege in recorded history. It was about 850 days long. The Germans were attacking Leningrad and sort of trying to freeze them out, so that they would all starve to death without having to fight them or attack the town and use up German resources. And this was interesting. I listened to this on audio. This is another free audio book from the Sync Project, and I'll link the Sync Project down below if y'all want to check it out. But I didn't really know much about Russian history, so listening to a so-called YA book on this period was very fascinating. And one of the things I liked about it was a lot of the book was discussing, oh my gosh, why can I never say his name? Shostakovich's 7th Symphony, because he wrote it during the Siege of Leningrad, and it's known as the Leningrad Symphony because it's allegedly supposed to be depicting the siege in musical form. And so when the narrator would talk about the parts of the symphony, you would hear musical interludes of that part of the symphony in the background. And after I finished this, I went and listened to the whole symphony, which is about an hour and 20 minutes, and it was really interesting, and I really enjoyed that. The most interesting part of this book was you learned a lot about behind the scenes parts of the war. So for example, they talk about Stalin and how, it's really weird, but when Hitler and Stalin were first, they were first buddies in the war, and then eventually Hitler betrayed Stalin and attacked Russia, and the narrator said, Stalin only ever trusted one person in his life, and that was Hitler, and you're like, why did he not trust anybody else, but then he trusts the most evil dude in the history of the world? And you're like, what? And so it also talked about how after Hitler first attacked Russia, Stalin went into his room and wouldn't come out, and there was briefly talk of deposing him and getting a new leader because he had mishandled the opening of the war so poorly. So yeah, it was interesting. And it also briefly talked about the Leningrad Library and how it stayed open through the siege, and I particularly enjoyed that part. And then there was also really terrible parts about cannibalism and the things that people would do to stay alive. So yeah, I enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I would, and I would recommend it if you have an interest in Russian history or music or anything like that. The last book I want to talk about in this video is The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. And this is a dystopian novel, and I guess I would categorize it as a horror book. This book follows Melanie, who is a young girl, and she's at a school and with a bunch of other kids, and you don't really know why she's there or how she got there. And she has a teacher that she loves named Miss Justinu. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I pronounce it in my head. Miss Justinu. And so she's in this school, and she's been in this school her whole life, as far as she can remember, and she's never been outside because the school is underground. And you are like, why is she in there? And you don't know, and it's a mystery. And then something happens, and Melanie and Miss Justinu and a few other people, who I don't really want to spoil it, but they all have to go sort of on the run. And so you find out why they're on the run and who's after them, and you find out where they're going. And it's just, I know I'm being very vague, but this is the kind of book where, like, if you don't know that much about it before you start, it's better for you. Hi guys again, sorry, so I just learned that my camera can only film 10 minutes at a time, my phone camera, so it cut me off right when I was talking, and I didn't realize, so then I was like talking for like 4 more minutes without knowing that it wasn't going. So anyway, what I was saying was, The Girl with All the Gifts is a very interesting book, and it's not something that I would regularly read, but because I found it at a little free library, and because I had heard about it on BookTube, I decided to pick it up. And I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it if you like horror at all, as dystopian at all, and even if you don't, because I enjoyed it. And yes, it was creepy, and I don't know if I would want to watch the movie because it was kind of creepy enough in the book, but it was a great read, and I recommend it. So yeah, those are the first 4 books I read in July, and I hope everybody's having a great first half of July, and I will talk to you again later. Bye.